Thank you all for being here. It's my second or third live. I don't know. But anyway, thanks for being here right now. It's evening here in the Netherlands. For some of you, it's afternoon or morning. I see there are a lot of comments already in the live chat. So Bra is here, John Doe is here, Maria is here, Meek is here, Suzanne is here. Brandon Lee is here, or B. Lee. Okay. Now, this live stream is about why and how you become the target of gangstalking. Now, first, I need to explain briefly what gangstalking is, because I believe many of you here are already familiar with it. Marky, you're right on time. Praise the Lord. Gangstalking, what is it? Gangstalking is when a crowd of people secretly agree to make life hard on you. So when a crowd of people secretly agree, so they don't do it openly. When they do it openly, they are exposed and they lose. They secretly agree to make life hard on you. And they secretly agree not to take threats against your life seriously. That is gangstalking. And gangstalking is done by a crowd of people. It's not something that 2 or 3 or 4 people do. The word gang is kind of misleading sometimes. It's better called societal stalking. That would be a more appropriate term. But gangstalking is a term many people use, so I'm using that term. But it's called gangstalking because people gang up on you as a mob, as a violent mob. But they don't do it suddenly coming after you with a whole gang of people, like they do in some ghettos. In common gangstalking, there are no actual people coming with weapons after you. In typical gangstalking, people just agreed to make life hard on you. And by them agreeing to make life hard on you, eventually things will get harder in your life and you'll likely lose your mind or lose your mental sanity. And once you lose your mental sanity, it's then that some of the people from the crowd will decide to remove you and take you out. So in gangstalking, first of all, the public agrees to make things hard on you. And once you mentally collapse, it's then that they finish off the job. Because they have to destroy your own image before they destroy you directly. If they attack you out of the blue, that will expose the violence of society. And that will backfire. So no, they want you to lose your mind so that people will think that you're the crazy one. And then when you disappear, people will either be happy that the crazy guy or crazy girl is gone, or they'll say, yeah, but he was crazy, maybe this, that. So people will feel less guilty or less sad when something happens to you. Now, in gangstalking, it's a public agreement that a lot of people agree to. So it's not, by definition, something from organization, just the public. Now, organizations, whether it's the government, or whether it's a church, or whether it's an actual gang from the streets, may get involved after they pick up the agreement of the crowd. So in gangstalking, it's the public that agrees to make things hard on you. And then organizations take over and do the dirty job. Too often when it comes to gangstalking, we focus on the organizations. But what we forget is the crowd that hires the organization, not the other way around. It's not the organization, whether it's the government or FBI, CIA, or the church, or the gang in the streets. It's not them hiring the crowd. It's the other way around. The crowd is upset. The crowd escalated on you, and they insist on escalating on you, and to prevent the crowd from decomposing and going into a meltdown, there are groups taking over and doing the dirty job for the crowd. That's how it goes. Yes, it was gangstalking what they did to Christ. Absolutely. The prophets of old were gangstalked. The apostles were also, after Christ resurrected, were gangstalked. Gangstalking isn't only something believers will go through. Many unbelievers are gangstalked also. But you may ask yourself, Rashid, why me? Why would anyone gangstalk me? I'm not involved in criminality. If you're involved in criminality, you think, you know what, hey, if I sold drugs in the streets, or if I was involved in human trafficking, or if I was involved in some type of financial fraud, okay, then I can understand that people get upset with me and wish me the worst, and that then people come after me. Some would say, I'm not a sex offender. If I was a sex offender, on a sex offender list, okay, then I understand that some people may develop anger towards me and all of that. So you're not a criminal, you're not on a sex offender list. Some people say I don't even have social media, so I'm not even putting out controversial information out there. So the thing is, when it comes to gangstalking, it doesn't only happen to believers, it also happens to unbelievers. But gangstalk is not. Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, gangstalking is not a random thing that suddenly happens out of the blue. Gangstalking follows a pattern because worldlings think in patterns and they operate in cycles. So what is the pattern of gangstalking? First of all, the crowd has something to hide. Write this down. And if some of you can repeat it in the live chat for me, that would be very great. Write this down for yourself and make some notes in the live chat so I know that you're following me. This is the pattern of gangstalking. Number one, the crowd has something to hide. One, the crowd has something to hide. Second, the crowd cannot come up with excuses for what they're hiding. Okay? Third, someone noticed the thing they're hiding. So third, someone noticed the thing the crowd is hiding. Fourth, the crowd picks a vulnerable victim to distract public attention. So let me go to 1 till 4 again. 1, the crowd has something to hide. Second, the crowd cannot come up with excuses for what they're hiding. Third, someone notices what the crowd is hiding. Fourth, the crowd selects a vulnerable victim to distract public attention. So let's go through each of those 4 steps, okay? Because this is how gangstalking begins. Then we're going to talk how gangstalking unfolds. But now first how it begins. First, the crowd has something to hide. Okay, Rashid, what can the crowd be hiding? Okay, for example, let's say there was this man who was getting drunk often, and he was beating his wife and abusing his children. Okay? Now, and let's say the public in that town or village did not intervene. Now, the children are grown up. And one of the children is a son. And the son one day loses his mind and he stabs several people. Now you have 4 people who pass away in a mass stabbing. So now the relatives of the victims want to know why. Why did the relative die? What was the fight? And then people come to the conclusion that someone just lost his mind. Then we want to know how come this individual lost his mind. And then we look in the background of the individual and realize, whoa, there has been neglect in this individual's life that led to the individual escalating like this. Why did nobody intervene? And then that exposes the neglect and the narcissism of society. So, in this case, it's obvious that the public or the crowd has something to hide, namely their own neglect, their own narcissism of not intervening when a child is being harmed, but they do demand validation from that same adult that used to be the same neglected child. Okay? So in this case, now the mainstream media wants to hide the fact that they want to hide who the killer was, and they want to hide the fact that the guy was not an actual evil individual, but someone that mentally exploded due to trauma. But because if they admit that this is the case, they didn't admit that it's the community that murdered those 4 people by, first of all, abusing a child severely, by not intervening, and then leaving the adults untreated when the adult was older. So, because when this comes out, nobody will trust one another anymore in daily life. And that will lead to the disintegration of society. And then more cesspools of neglect will open. So now people say, oh, the guy who stabbed all those folks, he was psychologically confused. They didn't say that, then it's over. Sometimes relatives will agree with this and just want to bury their loved ones and move on. But then there are going to be people thinking, okay, but if this guy really lost his mind like that, and he was never in touch with the police nor with criminality before, and there were no signs of him being a psychopath or whatever, that means that this guy was a victim that escalated, and that means that the ones that victimized him or that enabled victimization, they're the ones responsible for the people that died. So people realize something's wrong with this case. So then step 2 is added in. The crowd cannot come up with an excuse. Okay? And then thirdly, maybe there is a crime blogger or someone on the internet that, or someone on YouTube that mentioned the case and says, this sounds like a cover-up. And then the public realizes, oh shit, they're on us. And when this comes out, I will lose my family. I will lose my reputation. If I lose my reputation, I will lose my job. Or I may lose my business. Or I may get into marriage problems because then my wife is going to think, honey, did you just allow bad things to happen with that kid? What? So people have something to lose. And people are terrified of losing something. So now the third phase has come in. Someone noticed the thing they're hiding. So now to prevent the thing that they were hiding from becoming open knowledge, they quickly distract others with a smear campaign or with someone. So out of the blue, suddenly you hear that everyone is talking about this Chinese guy. And then, out of the blue, a lot of people in town can't stand this Chinese guy. You hear them talk about him all the time. And now you think, why is everyone so angry with this Chinese guy? This Chinese guy is 18 years old. He's attending university. He has a part-time job in a Chinese restaurant. He visits his parents from time to time. This guy is not involved in crime. This guy is not selling drugs in the streets. He's not hanging around the wrong crowd. Why is it that so many people can't stand this 18-year-old Chinese guy? And how come you have a bunch of people, grown folks, who never even met the guy, having issues with this guy? And now, that is step 4. They found a vulnerable victim to distract the public, the rest of the public. So I explained how gangstalking begins. Now I'm going to explain how the crowd selects their victim. It's very simple. The victim must have a mark of victimization. A mark of victimization, I already spoke about this before, is an energetic wound in your energy field that makes it easy for people to escalate on you. When you have this deep wound in your energy field due to past trauma that's not processed, people can easily come close to you and escalate on you because energetically you are in a wounded state. So, a mark of victimization. And a mark of victimization doesn't have to be child abuse or sexual abuse as a child. It can also be that your parents were quite emotionally distant, or it can be that you lacked a lot of knowledge while you're growing up. Or it doesn't have to be something from childhood. It can also be that you were wounded later in life by your ex-wife or ex-husband. The victim must have some deep psychological wound somewhere that makes the individual less likely to notice that something is off. Because people that are deeply psychologically wounded, they often don't notice when something bad is unfolding. All right? So, that mark of victimization is that it's this wound in your energy field. Okay, but is that the only thing? No. Let's go to the second thing. The victim must be an outlier to the community. What? Outlier? Okay, Rashid, but what if you have a community that's quite homogenous? Okay, let's say now you have a community in Sweden, a town of 5,000 Swedish people. All of them have blonde hair and blue eyes. And you have this one guy who has brown eyes. Okay? Now, this one guy with brown eyes, people don't notice it that quickly that he has brown eyes. But let's say now that the community is looking for a victim. In this case, that one guy with brown eyes, he will be the outlier that people can notice easily. But what if the guy has no mark of victimization? In this case, they have to mark the guy by victimizing him. So one day the guy may be leaving work and he's knocked out of the blue, and people ran away, and the police doesn't want to solve the case. That's how they traumatize and shock him, and now he developed this wound in his energy field. So now they gave him a mark of victimization because they didn't have any. So if you didn't have a mark of victimization, they will give you one by sudden assault. Or if it's a woman, you would have a bunch of guys go and sexually, harass the woman. And that will cause intense trauma in her. That will lead to a mark of victimization. So there must be a mark of victimization, either was there already or it's enforced, and then you have to be an outlier. There must be something about you that's atypical to the rest of the group. Maybe all the women in your community have straight hair and you have curly hair. Or maybe you have red hair or ginger red hair. Well, that's uncommon in your area. Or maybe you like to wear stockings while the rest of the women in your community do not. Just wear their skirts, just like that. It can be something very tribal, something very tiny that shouldn't even matter. You need to have an outlier. You need to have something about you that's atypical to the rest of the community, and then this thing that's atypical about you will be used against you. So in this case, the guy which has brown eyes might be seen as someone that will mess up the gene pool of the posterity of that town. Or he will be accused of he's not really a Swede, he's a foreigner, or he's not really loyal to the community. They'll come up with some type of nonsensical excuse to use that atypical thing about you against you. The third thing is you must have a deep dependency on the community. Someone with financial resources that can easily move out of town is not going to become the target of Gangstalk. They will not. Why? Because let's say that guy with brown eyes instead of blue eyes, let's say people came to look angry at him. He may think, you know what? Let me catch a train, I'm out of there. Done. No. So let's go through it again. The victim must have a mark of victimization, of past trauma that something do properly. Or if that's not around, people will generate new trauma. Okay? Then there must be something atypical about you that's different from the rest of the community. whether it's hairstyle, hair color, eye color, or maybe your accent. Maybe you speak with an accent, or maybe you were raised without a father, or maybe maybe your parents were divorced while the rest of people are the parents stay together, or maybe everyone has a job and you're unemployed, or maybe everyone has a 9 to 5 job and you're working part time. That can also be the case. Or maybe a lot of people around you have Facebook and you don't. It doesn't have to be anything bad. There's something atypical about you. And third thing is, you need to have a deep dependency, or you have to be financially or emotionally dependent on the community. Because when you're financially and emotionally dependent on the community, that means you have less resources to fight back. And the whole purpose is that you are incapable of fighting back, because you are needed as a distraction, so people don't notice their own neglect as a group. So, okay. And that's why in communities, most of the time, you see this in Western communities often. With Western, I mean Europe, North America, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand. You see this in the Western world often, because as a sociologist, I noticed this, but you also see it in Asian urban communities, like in big cities, like in Bangkok or in Shanghai or in Seoul, where I lived for 9 months. You see this, that people want to be similar to the rest. People don't want to be an outlier. That's the moment you have something different or atypical about you, and the people are upset, it's just a matter of time before that atypical thing about you is picked up. That's why, for example, you can go to some neighborhoods in, I don't know, The Hague, and everyone almost sounds the same, dresses the same, and responds the same. I lived in Korea for 9 months, and this is one of the key motivators why Koreans want to be similar. Because the moment you become an outlier, let's say that you can speak English fluently as a native Korean, while the rest of people around you can't do it. That can make an outlier. Or what if you can speak Spanish? Because I encountered a Korean guy that could speak Spanish fluently. I was thinking, wow. But I noticed this guy also had psychological issues. He hung around foreigners often instead of his own people. I know why now. Whenever you are an outlier, especially in an industrialized society, you are at risk of becoming the target of gangstalking. Okay? That is why in some countries they force children to wear uniforms when they go to school. Because when you wear a uniform, you're similar to everyone else. And when you're similar, it's very unlikely people will see you as a threat. So, it has nothing to do with doing anything bad. You can be a believer, walking by faith, doing a lot for the community, and one day suddenly people are upset with you, but you can't explain why. So now you know how the victims are selected. Now let's go to how victims are recruited. Okay, let me repeat again about the victims. First, there must be a market victimization. Second, there must be some atypical thing about them makes them an outlier. And thirdly, it must be financially and emotionally dependent on the community. Okay, let's go to the grooming process, how victims are groomed by the group. Okay, the first thing they do is to send people to check on you. The first thing that happens is that the crowd sends someone to check on you. An individual checks on you is likely a friend or a relative or maybe someone from school. It's not, or even if it's a stranger, it's a stranger that's involved in the community. Sometimes the inquisition, when they inquire information from you, goes professionally. For example, they put one individual harassing you and another individual standing up for you. For this sometimes you do this. You have a woman who's the target of game stalking, and she's at the bus stop. You have a guy begins to make sexual comments to her, and she gets upset. Then if another guy is saying to the other guy, "Hey, leave her alone," and the other guy leaves, and woman thinks, "Oh, this other guy rescued me from being sexually assaulted." But those guys, both one that sexually assaulted her, or wanted to, as well as the guy that stops the other guy, both know one another. It's just a plot. It's a plot to cause her to trust the other guy that stood up for her. And she develops a small friendship with the guy. And she has no idea this guy was actually part of the plan all along. Or it can be that they send someone to check on you on social media or someone to follow you for a few days. And they figured out, oh, you need a job. You graduated college or university, but you're still looking for a job. And then one day, out of the blue, you get an email with a job offer. So you get a job offer, and at the job, everyone was informed about you already. Sometimes they will create a job or a position just for you. And everyone at the workplace knows that it's a setup. So when you arrive at work, everyone love bombs you. Everyone treats you well. Everyone likes you. Everyone hangs out with you. They support you. You think, whoa, I arrived in heaven. This is so great. I even get paid good money for this. No. It's a trap. And many jobs out there are traps. Listen to me. Many jobs out there, not all, absolutely not, but many jobs out there are traps that they design for Gangstalk victims. So they send someone for inquiries, to inquire upon you. Then they love bomb you once they know sufficient about you to trick you. While they love bomb you, they give you allies, people that stand up for you, people that agree with you, people that so-called watch after you. So you develop new friendships or new contexts. And while the love bomb is going on and they give you allies, then they begin to spread false information about you. And then as a fourth, now the anger starts to manifest. Okay? So let's go through it one more time. First, they send someone to inquire about you, some spy to check on you. Once the spy has enough knowledge or the spy has made the contact, then the second phase begins. They begin to love bomb you, either by tricking you into a job or tricking you into a marriage partner. That also happens. Sometimes they will send a woman to you to sexually seduce you, or they will send a man to you just to give you sexual comfort. That can also happen. Or let's say you're a bit of a loner. They will send people inviting you to parties, all of that. So that's love bombing. In love bombing, you are overwhelmed with lovely affection. That's the second part. The third thing is you get allies, people that agree with you and stand beside you. Fourth, out of the blue, bad treatment begins. And it's bad treatment that casts a spell on you. The sudden bad treatment can be that suddenly you're fired from your job, or suddenly people stop answering your phone calls. Or maybe this sex partner that you just gained recently doesn't want to have sex with you anymore, or you hear she's cheating. Suddenly there's a shock that happens. People start treating you with disdain. People begin to avoid you out of the blue. And this causes confusion in your mind. What's going on? And this confusion is meant to cause you to lose your mind. Because once you lose your mind, and you become paranoid, you become hysterical, or you develop anxiety or depression, now people will just stand back and watch you fall apart mentally. And they will document this to use this against you. And then comes the assassination. Out of the blue, you disappear. You go missing. If you become aware of what they're doing to you, suddenly you're stabbed or you're shut down. So let's go to it again and also repeat it in the live chat. First, they send a spy to inquire on you. Second, they love bomb you. Third, they give you allies. Fourth, sudden bad treatment. The fifth is they watch you collapse mentally. That's how they do it. Those are the 5 steps how to do it. Please repeat in the live chat. First, they send someone to inquire on you. Second, they love bomb you. Third, they give you allies. Fourth, sudden bad treatment. 5, they wait till you collapse mentally. So how can you look, gangstalking is how society operates. Till Jesus returns or till Christ returns, will be gangstalking. But how can you make it hard to be gangstalked? Sometimes you start rumors about yourselves. For example, look, you can go online with a fake Facebook account and start a rumor about yourself. And then check how people deal with the rumor. If they deal with it in an improper way, now you know, oh, I need to get away from those people. You can do that. Or the best thing to do is to not have a standard pattern. If you go to the supermarket every Wednesday, stop going every Wednesday to the supermarket. Vary how you operate. So, look, I just gave you 2 tips on how you can hinder gangstalking. But the number 1 thing you should do is to be in fasting and prayer. Look, saying nothing about you is also dangerous. What can also make you an outlier when nobody knows anything about you. So the whole idea to keep everything about you to yourself, that's also a dangerous thing to do. A lot of people think that if they're very, very, very close off, nobody knows anything about them, the so-called very private means they're safe. No. When nobody knows anything about you, that's also a dangerous thing. And by the way, if nobody knows anything about you and they begin to target you, how can anyone notice that you're being targeted? Because sometimes when gangstalking goes on, people try to warn you. Maybe people are already murmuring about you. And this is guy telling you, hey, Rashid, maybe it's better for you to look for another job, man. Or maybe this job doesn't pay you that well. So they're giving you positive advice to get you out of a situation. And now you may think, why is this guy telling me it's better for me to look for another job? This job doesn't suit me well. Because that guy knows that some plot is going on. So sometimes even worldly people will reach out to you to warn you indirectly. But for that to happen, they must be able to reach you. They must know something about you in order to inform you. So not telling anyone anything about you is a very dangerous thing to do. So let people know basic things about you. Okay? Don't give them deep-rooted details, but let them know something about you. Don't become this anonymous loner that nobody knows anything about. Because if you're an anonymous loner and something go missing, how are people going to help others to find you? Okay? So, give people breadcrumbs of information that they can detect you. Okay? This whole idea of not saying anything to anyone and to keep to yourself is very dangerous. Look, keeping to yourself can be a practical thing only in some circumstances. But when you live in it somewhere, when you reside somewhere, don't keep to yourself. Let people know who you are and let them know something about you. Okay? Because if you are very hidden, nobody knows anything about you, that is also an outlier. So, when you are online, you can have your own profile, but your real name, like I do, but you also can have anonymous profiles, but I use aliases. to do research. You can do that. Here's another thing. Chuba says it, keep your circle small. Okay, that can also be a trap, but look, it comes down to this. Make sure you're always on the move. A moving target is much harder to hit. That's true. So, I've explained to you in steps how gang stalking unfolds. And I'm telling you right now, before I began this live stream, I was watching an old case, a cold case online. And this cold case is from, okay, let me check it out. This cold case is about this Chinese guy he was 20 years old, and he died at a railway station. He ran away. Instead of walking to the exit, he ran away to the opposite direction, and a train began to ride, and the train hit him at the head, and he fell to the ground, and he passed away. Now, first thing, why didn't the driver of the train notice that he was running away? Yes, it was night past midnight, but still, there's one thing that's strange. Secondly, this guy was about to be picked up by a friend, as always. It was common for him to be dropped off by his boss at the Hague Central Station. He would pick up the train to Maasluis, and there the friend would pick him up. But this time, when he was texting the friend did not pay attention. The friend fell asleep. He arrived over there at the train station beyond midnight, and instead of just walking to the exit and go home or catch a bus, whatever, he ran away. Why did he run away in the opposite direction and of being hit by the train when the train that just got out from began to ride? It was not suicide, because it was suicide, he would have waited for the next train. It was also not suicide because it was the side of his head that was hit. So he actually fell over while running away. So if he fell over running away, someone must have pushed him in the direction of the train that began to drive. So someone tried to push him on the rails before the train began to ride. So however you look at the case, it's foul play. When this case happened a few years ago, I've seen it on the news. And I knew from the start, man, this was fault. This something happened. They can't say suicide because nothing proves it's suicide. Someone pushed him so his head would hit the driving train. And the thing is, there were even politicians. It was even this politician of Maasluis coming out saying, "I knew the guy. He was a very nice guy." Hold on a minute. So this Chinese guy, 20 years old, he ends up dying in a suspicious way. And look at this, that railway station had no security cameras. And I'm thinking, what? Netherlands. How come a railway station in the Netherlands in the 21st century, it has no security cameras? And what do you know? At a railway station with no security cameras, a guy ends up dying in a suspicious way and nobody has seen anything. And there are flat complexes around. So what about security cameras of the environment or from the apartments in those flats? What? So when I reviewed the case before starting this live, I came to the conclusion this guy was gangstalked. The fact that this guy died in such a suspicious way, until this day, the case is not resolved, and people just moved on with life, so nothing happened, shows you this guy was a distraction. He was a distraction of something else that the public wanted to cover up. Look, I've been to Maasluis, okay? And by the way, today, that portion of the Dutch, and look at this. Shortly after this happened, that portion of the Dutch railways were sold to the Rotterdam public transport. So they changed that track for the metro. So today it's not the train but the metro that comes over there. So it's not a train station anymore. Today it's a metro station. But when it was still a train station, I used to go to Maasluis. I used to go to that railway station, and I can tell you, there is no way that this guy would run to the end of the platform and being hit with his head by the train that just drives away. Either that story of being hit on his head by the train that drives away is a lie, or he was pushed there because he was running away from someone that was after him, or it was no train that hit his head. People just smashed his head and killed him, and now they pretend like, oh, it was a train that hit him. It seems like they tried to brush it off as suicide, but evidence showed that it can't be suicide. Look, and it's quite suspicious. Shortly after this incident, the railway network from that area was shifted towards a metro network. So the tracks are still there, but now it's a metro that's there. Why did they do that? Why this sudden change? There was something that the public in Maasluis wanted to hide, and the gangstalking began. That's it. And I'm sure many people know exactly what happened to the guy. So, this is not the only case in the Netherlands that I've noticed is gangstalking. There are many cases happening to white folks, Asians, blacks, Arabs, mulattoes, Malaysians, whatever. This can happen to almost anyone. Look, when I see a case that's weird, I'm thinking, what? Oh, Chinese guy. After midnight, he left the railway. He was about to leave the railway station, but suddenly he ran towards the edge of the platform, and he ran so close to the track of the train that the train rode by and hit him in the head, and he was carried away by the blow near the track. He wasn't even found on the train track, but near the track, near the edge of the railway. Oh, what is the train that hit his head? Who told you that? Why did people smash a hammer in his head and threw him near the track like they feel like suicide? Oh, there are no security cameras, so we can't figure things out. Why are there no security cameras over there? But it's not only that case. There are many more missing persons cases or even homicide cases in the Netherlands that so-called cannot be solved. And I know already, this is gangstalking. That's why, just like Chuba says, economic relevance is key. Otherwise, you're stuck in this nasty drain and murder cycle. That's true. So listen to me now. Just because you are similar to the people around you doesn't mean you can't be targeted. Maybe you are a teenage girl, 18, 19 years old, about to turn 20, and you just entered university, you made some new friends, but there are some things going on at the university, some scandals that they don't want to come out, and suddenly one day you are on your bicycle about to ride home and you go missing. Suddenly all attention is about finding you. For example, I've spoken about the Tanya Groen case a while back. Okay. Hold on a minute. I'm going to share my screen with you. Hold on. Okay, can you see this? Okay. I spoke about the Tanya Groen case of 1993, how this woman, damn, actually girl, woman, you get what I'm saying, how she left a sorority party and she was never found again. And what do you know? This Dutch crime reporter, Peter R. de Vries, who just came with a plan to have a €1 million reward for the golden tip, suddenly he was gunned down 2.5 weeks ago and he died. It was all over the media. So, I don't know. Yes, this is my live stream. Tanya Groen case examined. And since I made this live stream, and since the killing of that Dutch crime reporter, more people began to show interest in the case. Thank God. Thank God. More people are showing interest in the case. Praise the Lord. So my live stream worked. Praise the Lord. But this girl over here, man, hey, I'm saying what it is. Gangstalking. It's a too good to be true story that she just disappeared and nobody can find and knows anything about it. Man, you don't fool me. You don't fool me. So let's see how many views. I have over 500 views on that case, and I streamed it 4 weeks ago. Okay, so I don't know who watched it, but they've watched it. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Now I'm going to watch those other videos about that people make afterwards to see if people notice something else. Just so you know, man, I notice things and I open my mouth. And I'm economically relevant. And I'm quite alert and I'm quite active. That's why they don't succeed in gangstalking against me. So listen to this. It's not ethnicity nor skin color that's the prime target to make you a victim. Even in racist United States, often white folks gangstalk their own white folks. Happens a lot. Unfortunately, in the Afro-American community, there are Afro-Americans gangstalking Afro-Americans. Very sad. The Chinese folks often gangstalk their own also. So, yes, you can be a total stranger. Let's say you're a Nigerian living in Britain in an English village. Yes, then you can be gangstalked because you're completely an outlier. You're Nigerian and the rest are native British folks. So yes, being completely different from the rest in ethnicity or skin color can be a factor, but that's not always the case. Most of the time, gangstalk victims are people who are quite similar to the group. So, understand this. The only way to stay safe from this murder cycle of society is by remaining prayed up as a believer. Unbelievers can notice this cycle and escape from it, but often they notice it way too late. And unbelievers often have lack of resources to get things done, because it happens that targets of gang stalking are reaching out to people they trust and inform them, Mom, Dad, it seems like people are after me. And sometimes the parents just don't want to hear it. Or sometimes the friends were not aware of what's going on, think, oh, you're just paranoid. So if the people around you are not people that are alert or aware, that's very dangerous. Sometimes the targets figure out too late some things up. Sometimes the target has been warned by certain people maybe it's better for you to get out of here, but they didn't pay attention, thought, oh, this is just paranoia. So remain prayed up. While being prayed up, you can also notice when someone else around you is a victim of gang stalking. If you notice someone's being gang stalked around you, intercede in prayer and decrees for that individual. That's what you do. That's what you do. And if the Holy Spirit allows, you can give the hints to them. But if the Holy Spirit does not allow it, just decree and declare on behalf of that individual. That's it. But that's the thing, Chuba, they are involved because it happens around them and they let it happen. So they are involved whether they want it or not. Yes, Danielle, fasting and praying is my daily habit. Absolutely. Now, what are signs that someone is gang stalked? Okay, sometimes it's quite difficult to notice it, but there's one. I'm going to give you a few indicators someone is likely gang stalked. Likely, okay, because the target often is not aware what's going on, but you can examine the environment when the target is around to figure it out. For example, if someone has, okay, I'm going to give you one example. If someone has, with social media, because we use social media today, if someone has a social media account and they have hundreds of people in their Facebook friend list, but almost none comment on his posts, that's a red flag. Now, why is that a red flag? It is because how come you have hundreds of people in your friend list, but very few of them respond to what you're posting? Let's say someone posts that they just got married, or they got a new job, or they have some type of thing they celebrate on their social media post, and almost nobody responds on it. There are only few likes and 2 comments, while they have 600 people, 400 people in their friend list. That's a red flag. Another thing is just like Chuba says, everyone's complaining about him or her, but there's no real reason why they're complaining. That's another sign. But not everyone that's complained about is gang stalked. Sometimes people complain about you and they have a legitimate reason for complaining. But even then, you need to look at the context. So yes, everyone's complaining about him or her without any direct reason. Some people are all of a sudden sort of one individual. Oh yes, Chuba, you mentioned it before I intended to. When people suddenly begin to avoid you out of the blue, watch out. When people suddenly avoid you, look, maybe people don't say hi to you. Maybe when people see you, they get afraid and they walk away. Maybe people stop answering your phone calls, or people stop answering your messages on Facebook. Look, when people suddenly begin to avoid you, and you realize, hold on a minute, why is it that people don't want to be in contact with me anymore? Why is it that people don't respond to my calls, my texts, or when they see me, they just say hi and they walk away? They work towards me like that. What happens? The fact that you can't explain to yourself why they're doing it, or the fact that you can't find any objective reason why they're avoiding you, that shows you that gang stalking is going on. People are aware that others are meditating negatively about you, so they feel that one of these days something bad is going to unfold. There's another sign, and that is that suddenly people become so loving, kind towards you out of the blue. Suddenly everyone knows who we are. Suddenly everyone treats you very well. This sign is when the hit is about to happen. When people suddenly avoid you because they feel that, ooh, you are a target. If I'm seen with you, I'm going to become a target too. So people begin to avoid you. So listen to me, saints. When people suddenly lower contact with you, and there's no objective reason for them to do so, stop excusing the situation. Stop brushing it away with logical explanations. If a situation is not logical, if a situation doesn't add up, it doesn't add up. Me, in the months before I moved out of the Netherlands, so in early 2020, or actually around December 2019, but I've noticed that a lot of people became slow in responding to me. But when I called them or when I sent a message to them, now I know people can be quote unquote busy, and in early 2020 you had this COVID shit that began. But I noticed that people will began to even when I said hi in public, people would often ignore me, or they would just, I would see them getting frightened and walk away. So I've noticed that there was a change in behavior towards me, publicly and also online. It was during this time that the Dutch Railways just ended my train subscription without any reason. Without any reason, they stopped my train subscription. So I couldn't ride anymore with the train. I was thinking, what? They sent a letter 2 weeks later that they stopped my train subscription, but they didn't give any explanation. This is quite weird. Normally they have to tell you we stopped the train subscription because due to lack of payment or to a delayed payment. They gave no explanation to it. So you had people kind of suddenly avoiding me in public and online, and you had the Dutch Railway suddenly stopping my train subscription. And during the time, I began to have weird visions of people wanting to stab me at my place in The Hague. And then there was also this believer telling Rashid, I was in prayer and fasting. I feel to tell you, leave this country as soon as possible because something growing against you. And it was during that time that I also began to gain a lot of weight. And the thing is, I was riding my bicycle very often. I even made videos showing you my bicycle. I was riding it. I was riding my bicycle often. I was in movement. I didn't eat fatty foods. So how can I be in movement and I'm not eating fatty foods, yet I'm gaining weight? So you had all these anomalies going on. So I obeyed the Holy Spirit. I left the country right on time. So in my case, when signs were there of gang stalking, I wasn't even aware of it myself. It was when I went into prayer and fasting and really evaluated the situation, like, this is off. You know what? Let me get out of here. And yes, so in my case, I paid heed to the signal, to the symptoms. And I took action. So I don't know what's going on with you, but the moment you notice symptoms that something is growing or brewing against you, get out of the situation, or at least do something about the situation. Me, the Lord wanted me to get out of the situation altogether. I left the country, and because of that, I was completely out of the situation. So I could move forward. And when the coast was clear, then my Father brought me back. So never ignore the symptoms of gang stalking. Never. And stop discussing your situation with people who don't want to see things. If you notice that people are avoiding you out of the blue, and if you can prove with text messages that people are slow in responding to you, it's not just one individual, it's multiple people doing it, then that's proof enough that something's up. If people can say to you, but no, Kevin, that's not the case. People are just busy these days, holidays are coming, or when people come with weird excuses to excuse the situation, please stop talking to such people. When you talk to people who don't even want to face reality of the type of world we're living in, those people are more likely to enable whatever's going on against you. Look, some people don't want to face anything in life. They want to live in this fairy tale existence that doesn't exist, ignoring all warning signals, just going to the work from 9 to 5, getting home, and then go in weekends to have fun and just want to get along without being bothered by bad stuff around them. Such people are very dangerous to be around. Look, man, if you would tell me, Rashid, I feel like there's something going on against me, I'm not going to say, come on, you just want attention. No, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to tell you, please, give me receipts. If you claim to me that you feel like something is growing against you, I want you to give me some receipts so I can look at them. And if I notice indeed, what I mean is, these things are quite weird, and I will tell you, just pay close attention. I will even advise you to be more flexible in your behavior, whatever. But some people, when you tell them that you feel like something's up and down, they will just brush away because they don't want to deal with anything. But when they do realize something's going on against you, they're likely to escalate and walk away from you. Some people just disappear. They will block you on social media. They will just when they know that something's going on against you. You have people like that. So listen, some people, because they don't want to face anything in life, just want to flee all the time. When they find out there's something against you, instead of warning you, they will block you. They will run away from you. So that's why it's always good to examine the type of people you're hanging around with. Remember, gang stalking begins with a crowd hiding something. If you know that the people around you or the community around you has something to hide, now you know that sooner or later gang stalking will happen. As simple as that. Haven't you noticed that the gossiper or talebearer is almost never gang stalked? Very rarely is a gossiper or talebearer gang stalked. Why? Because if a gossiper or talebearer is gang stalked, it's going to be too obvious. And so the gossiper or talebearer, they know a lot of stuff, and because the people are afraid of making them the target. It's often people who are quote unquote mind their own business that end up being gang stalked. So the minding of your own business, that attitude is very dangerous. Okay, DL, I don't know what you're talking about here, but don't put comments here that don't relate to the subject, please. Or if you put a comment, make sure it is relatable to what's being discussed. All right? I put you on timeout, TL. You can comment later on or on other live streams. Just don't come in the comment section. Just mention things about technology and psychological factors without a context. Thank you very much. Indeed. Minding your business is a contradiction. We're social beings by default. I told you before, you can't always leave a situation. That's why always be alert of what goes on around you. I make live streams about it. Be alert of what goes on around you and make sure you're flexible in your behavior. Don't develop a standard pattern. Indeed. Mm-hmm. And gang stalking is the norm of society. It's not something that happens once in a while. It's the norm. That's why when you are applying for a job, they do a background check on you to check whether you're a controversial figure or not. If you, for example, there are jobs where they want you to have no delay in payments ever. There are jobs where they want you to come from a two-parent household. There are jobs where you have a lot of requirements that have nothing to do with the job. You know why? They don't want controversial people on the workplace. Okay? Now you understand why recruiters for jobs are so into scanning and screening people they admit to the workplace. I'm telling you, you have to have a lifestyle of fasting and praying, and not just sporadically praying and fasting, indeed. Look, this is the world we're living in. This is the world we'll be in until Christ comes back. So watch, be watchful, keep fasting and praying. So by staying prayed up and act where you need. Okay? Yes, build your own business. That's what you're by saying. Okay? So build your own business. Unpredictability is also good. But okay, I'm going to shut down the live stream now. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to do other research now also because I just woke up like an hour ago. So I had enough sleep already. Keep on agreeing with Christ. Remain active, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Stay prayed up.